All right, 27. The graph of f of x equals x cubed plus 4x squared minus x minus 4 is shown below. Use the graph to factor f of x. Now, this may seem more difficult than it actually is going to turn out to be. All we have to do is, for this function, identify where the graph crosses the x-axis. All right, so in this case, we can see that the graph crosses at -4. We can see it crosses here at -1, and it crosses here at +1. These are considered zeros of the function f of x, meaning if we were to take -4, plug it in, we would get 0 as the corresponding y. If we were to take -1, plug it in and evaluate, we would get 0 as the corresponding y, and likewise, if we were to take +1, plug it in and evaluate, we would get 0 as our y value. And we can even see that right on the graph, right? Here, when x is -4, the corresponding y value, if we follow it over, is 0, right? We haven't gone up or down on the y-axis at the x value 4, and same thing with -1 and +1. So if -4, -1, and 1 are all zeros, what are the factors that those zeros came from? Well, -4 came from the factor x plus 4. -1 came from the factor x plus 1. And +1 came from the factor x minus 1. So we can say f of x, and let me move that over a little bit. So we can say then that our function f of x equals these three factors. And recall, we can set each of these factors, just like we did in the two previous videos, independently to 0 to get our -4, -1, and +1, right? X plus 4, when we set it to 0, just using basic algebra, we get x equals -4. That's where the -4 came from. All right, likewise, if we set x plus 1 equal to 0 and solve for x, we get x equals -1. So again, the reason that x plus 1 is the corresponding factor to -1 is because you're setting this factor equal to 0 in solving. So you really could work backwards. If we know that x equals -1 is a factor, we'll add 1 to both sides. So we get x plus 1 equals 0. So that's where the factor comes from. And then, of course, x minus 1, the same concept. So what we could do to check ourselves, just to make sure that we are correct, that these are in fact the factors, we could multiply all of these factors together, and you would find that we do in fact get back to the original function x cubed plus 4x squared minus x minus 4. All right, so really don't make these any harder than they have to be. All you're doing is identifying where the graph crosses the x-axis, take those zeros, and turn those zeros into the factors that they came from. All right, and then there we have it. So number 27, there we have the graph in factored form.